resolve, or maybe if you resolve, only can satisfy one. The other one will be ignored. Okay, so that is strong. The other one is weak conflict. Weak conflict means the requirements are quite close to each other, where you can restore or come up with a solution where both requirements can be satisfied. So that is weak conflict. So third thing, you need to perform the conflict management. Okay, for conflict management, there are 4 steps. You need to resolve the conflict. Got 4 steps. Okay, of course, I try to avoid such question in exam. Got come out in past year, quite long time ago. Since I started setting paper, I don't ask theory directly, because like memorizing and just writing back nothing much, right? So I don't really ask the steps, what are the 6 steps, what are the 4 processes. I don't ask such question. So what you have to do now, you need to understand, okay, how to resolve conflict. If you don't really remember these 4 steps, then of course you cannot do, right? So assignment, you need to identify every module, you need to identify one set of overlapping statement. One set. What is one set? Can be 2 requirements or 3 requirements or more than 2 requirements. Okay, so you have to identify 2 requirements. Since it's short semester, I ask my students to go for only 2 requirements. Identify 2 requirements, find the overlapping part. Overlapping means which part is overlapping with each other. Then try to detect where is the conflict. After detecting the conflict, try to generate the resolution. Okay, now generate resolution. I got teach 5 tactics last class. Avoid, restore, weaken, drop, specialize. So for assignment, you have to come up with one resolution for each tactic. You try your level best to come up with one resolution at least for each tactic. If you really can't come up with a resolution for certain tactics, you can skip. But try to come up with all the tactics. Okay, so try to apply all the tactics. Then the last step, evaluate. Evaluate which resolution is the best. Choose one resolution. So that will be your final requirement. That will be your final requirement to solve the conflict. Okay, to solve the conflict, you have done 4 steps and you come up with a final requirement. So now that final requirement must be recorded in your functional requirements. It must be consistent. You get what I mean? So this is what you need to do for assignment. Every module, one set of requirement conflict management. Okay? So now I also covered some calculation on risk. Okay, so you know, right? Risk means something that going to happen, or you are predicting. Okay, but you are not sure whether it will happen or not. But if it happens, it can affect your project. Okay, it can bring impacts to your project. And if it's positive impact, no one can. Correct or not? The problem is, risk means it can actually give negative impact on your project. We don't want to have any negative impact towards the finishing time or in the middle of the project. So if any predicted risk might be quite serious if it happens, you can't just ignore now. You need to take some steps to manage the risk. So for 3 steps. What are they? I covered the 3 steps. Risk identification. You need to identify risk. In my course, I just touch a little on risk. If you take software project management, you will study a lot of even more calculations, more analysis, how to manage the risk, more things. Okay. Here I just touch the basic. Okay. So you need to know the 3 steps: risk identification, risk assessment, risk control. Okay. So risk identification, risk assessment, risk control. So under the assessment, after you identify all the risks, what are the possible risks can happen in your project? Like MCO. Anyone expected? COVID. Anyone expected? Anyone expected before COVID happened? Anyone expected? Tsunami. Anyone expected? Most of the servers, at the tsunami area were destroyed. Same thing. COVID, what happened? Most of the projects, software project or whatever project, delayed. Some of the project dropped. Just dropped like that. So all these are risks. If you have predicted all this earlier, I'm very sure that company has survived. The companies who fail to predict this risk, I'm very sure they couldn't manage to go through. Okay? So these are the things. When you predict a risk and the risk suddenly happen, at least you have the risk assessment and control. So you know how to react. You know how to prevent from big impact. You can actually try to prevent or reduce the impact. So you can be safe. Your project can be safe. You understand or not? So that's the importance of risk. So at least you understand what is risk? Good. Okay, now assessment. Assessment, I got show the calculation, right? Today, the attendance is very bad. Yeah, if still students are coming, then okay, otherwise it's quite considered bad. So what I'm going to do, at least for the risk, yeah, all this calculation. So what I'm planning to do is, actually I wanted to show one tutorial question step by step how to do. But since the attendance is not really good, I will try to do it during my replacement class. At least I can record. When I record, you can go and watch again. Okay? So I will try to discuss this example again in my, in my replacement class. Okay? So now I just proceed with chapter 5. Okay? So remaining chapter 4 and chapter 5. Okay, now another important topic. Why this topic is important? This is quite popular question in final exam. If you check my final exams in the past, at least in 2 semesters, 1 semester will have this question. Okay, this or other calculations, depends, like, take it. So now this one very important because of final exam, and the other one is your assignment. Your assignment, right, you need to identify optional requirements. What is optional requirement? Just now we were talking about clash. Clash means 2 different sources give a requirement which clash with each other. That is a problem. This is not a problem. This one, like for example, let's say a client, okay, approach you, ask for, let's say, feedback. Okay, the client say, my customers should feedback for my service or product. So I want a feedback module in my system. Then you say, okay, what kind of feedback module or how you want the feedback module to look like? Then your customer say, okay, there are a few ways you can collect the feedback. Can anyone name a few ways that you can collect feedback from your customer within your system? Anyone? How can you collect feedback from your customer? Nowadays got a lot. WhatsApp, you can click WhatsApp and directly send the messages. Can use email, click an email. Can use e-form. You know e-form? You click, it will load a form, you just fill up your feedback, send. Got a lot of ways, right? So the customer say, okay, wow. So you try to have all this. Then 2 weeks later, the customer come back to you, says, I don't think I can proceed with all this method because my budget is limited and I'm expecting the system as soon as possible. So can you just identify one way, one of the requirement to be implemented? I don't want all. I just want one. So when they say just one, how are you going to identify which one you're going to implement? How are you going to identify which requirement you're going to proceed with? Because for 3 or 4, let's say, choices, options. But the customer say, I want feedback from my client, from my customers. But one way enough. I don't want so many ways because no enough budget. So now you need to select one. How do you identify that one option? This is the one. Okay? So there are 2 ways, 2 techniques. Quantitative, qualitative. Quantitative, qualitative. Okay, so let's look at qualitative. Okay, I have explained now what is evaluating alternative options. Okay? So now qualitative. Okay, look at the qualitative. Okay? You need to come out with, first, what are the options you have? What are the options you have? Here I have getting email constraint. My example just now is getting feedback. Now this example for this project, they have 2 options to get the constraint for a meeting. They want to schedule a meeting. They want to know the availability of each staff. So that is considered constraint. Okay, are you available? Do you have anything on the day or time? So then I can collect all the constraints and determine the time. Okay, so that's the purpose. So they have 2 options here. For this project, got 2 options. What are the 2 options? Email and e-agenda. Okay. Okay, attendance code. Whoever just came in, sign attendance before I forget. Okay. Okay, there are 2 options. Okay, 2 options. One is getting by email, getting through email, and the other one is e-agenda. Okay. So now, how are you going to determine which one is better? Which one is better? Because of course we go for the best solution. Correct or not? So we choose the best option. How are we going to choose the best option? You need to identify a few factors to evaluate. That's why we call this evaluating the options. Okay? So you need to identify a few factors. Can anyone tell me, when you are collecting constraint from this, like myself, I asked just now, okay, I want to have replacement class tonight or maybe Tuesday night. How am I going to collect the constraint? Are you available? I want to know all my students available on which slot, which time, okay, which day. So how am I going to collect all the constraint from you? So I need to identify a technique, okay, something like this. Okay, now, what are the factors I consider? When you send your constraint to me, what are the factors I need to consider? For example, how fast I can get because I need to schedule the meeting by tonight or next Tuesday. So I need the constraint or reply or response as soon as possible. So fast response is one of the factor. Fast response, you see here, fast response is one of the factor. What is the next factor? For this, every project different, every options, different factors. For this one, on collecting the constraint, getting the constraint. So for getting the constraint, I want constraint to be sent to me as fast as possible. So fast. Number 2, reliable. You know what is reliable? You said, okay, Friday. You say Friday night. But then when I receive, I got it as Tuesday night. Reliable or not? Not reliable. So I want the message or your response to reach me without any error, without any issue. So reliability. Yes, correct. Reliability. Okay, then next, I want you to feel convenient to answer me to feedback. So I don't want to trouble my clients, or I don't want to trouble my customer, or I don't want to trouble my students. So how can I collect the constraint from you guys without troubling you? So the usability. Usability means how customers feel. Have easy to understand, easy to respond, easy to contact me. So all these are under usability. Okay, so here minimal convenience, okay, or minimal inconvenience is actually under usability. So I have 3 factors: the performance, fast response, reliability, reliable response, minimal inconvenience. So I consider only these 3. You can consider more than 3 or not? Can or not? Assignment. Of course can. You can go for 4 or 5, but not too many lah. Later very messy. So you can consider the best 3, 4 or 5. Okay? Depends on what are your optional requirement. So your project, what can be your optional requirement? Tell me. What can be your optional requirement for your project? Any title? Anyone want to share your project title and share what can be your optional requirement? Payment mode. So let's say nowadays you have a variety of options. E-wallet, online banking, credit card, debit card, QR code payment. So many payment mode. So which payment mode are you going to implement all for your first time first project? Straight away develop all the payment mode? If you have enough fund, you can do it. But when you don't have enough budget, you have to identify 1 or 2 best payment mode in your project. Correct or not? So you can actually evaluate a few payment mode, consider which one is the best option, and only develop that requirement, implement that requirement. The others can ignore first. You understand or not? That's the purpose of this one. Okay, now payment mode, right? What are the, let's say I go for e-wallet, I want to compare 4. E-wallet, debit card, credit card, online banking. What can be the other one? Any suggestion? 1, 2, 3, cash on delivery. Cash on delivery also you need to develop system in such way so that cash can be collected later. Correct or not? So 4 options. Now tell me, what can be your factor? Can I have from that group, what can be the factor for payment mode? I don't want exactly same as this. You can use back this, but I want something more specific for payment mode options. How can I evaluate which payment mode is better? So what can be the factors? Anyone from that group? The first one? That's right. This group? How can I evaluate payment mode? Which one is better? What can be my factor? Payment what? Payment involve your bank account details, your personal details. So what can be one of the factor? Security. Good. Security. And of course reliability convenience can use bank. Other than that, security, convenience, reliability, yes, fine. One more maybe? Sorry? Louder? Accuracy. Okay. Accuracy, correct also. The calculation and all that. See which one can like when you deduct, right? The amount, which one allow you to deduct, for example, 35 ringgit 92 cent. So 92 cent, what happened? 2 cent, our country no more 1 cent. So what happened to the calculation? So round off in which way? So which payment mode allow you to deduct exactly 92 cent? Which payment mode unable to? So always round off or must be a round number. So you can consider all this. Then go for the best option for your customer. You understand, Amma? Okay, clear, right? Okay, now how to get the score? How to get the score? Okay, attendance code I show you again towards the end. So now let me quickly go through this. How can I show you how I can get the score for this? Anyone? Okay, this one can be done using research or any elicitation technique. Either artifact driven or stakeholder driven. Same technique. So you have like 1,000 customers. You can actually conduct a survey. Ask which one is better. Then from there you get the plus, minus, all that. You can actually use the same scale. Very positive to double positive people. Okay? Double plus. Positive 1 plus, negative 1 negative, and then very negative 1 minus. 2 minus, sorry. So how to get this? Out of 1,000 people, let's say 800 people and above answered agree. Then of course that is very positive. More than 500 people, you have a scale. You come up with a scale. Then come up with the key. Okay, then based on that, you have to put the sympathy. So you can conduct survey. You can conduct group discussion. Group session. So assume that your group members are the clients. So you can conduct among your group. So you ask, out of our 5 members, how many of you agree that email is fast response or faster response than? So how many put up hand? 3. So 3 out of 5. So above 3, likely. If above 4 or 5, very likely. So plus. So you come up with the scale first before you conduct. So you can even do within your group members to do this. Or you can go for research, like collect information from the sources. See which one is better in terms of security, which one is better in terms of fast response, blah blah blah. So you can find out, then come up with a scale and put it in. Now tell me, which one is chosen? Which one will be implemented? Anyone? Which one is chosen now? E-agenda, very good. Okay, now how I check my assignment report of my students. Now in functional requirement under your module, under the constraint, if I have this 2, okay, constraint by email as one requirement, the system should allow the staff to get constraint by e-agenda as another requirement. Correct or not? I have both in your module under the requirements, functional requirement. Correct or not? Should I have both in the functional requirement? I just want you to understand how we check your assignment data. Can I have this 2 in your functional requirement? Both method? Can or not? Cannot. You evaluate both to choose one. So the chosen one must be in the functional requirement. The other one should be removed. You are not going to consider. Understand or not? If you have four options, you want to consider 2 options, then can. Out of the 4, 2 ignore. 2 can go into the functional requirement. But you must have a discussion in this section saying that you have selected 2 out of 4. So in your result, the best 2 selected, I must see the best 2 exist in your functional requirement. The other 2, no. You understand? That's important. Clear? Okay, proceed. Now, how to do the quantitative? Just now qualitative, now quantitative. Same thing. So quantitative also, you have the same factors. You have the 2 same options. You have to do the same set of optional requirement. Okay, you have to perform qualitative and quantitative. Okay, and both you should get the same output by right. Okay, then here is called weight. How to get the weight? Okay, the weight is which one is more important, which factor you are paying more attention for these options. Okay, for here, collecting the constraint. If any one of the constraint I receive wrong, big error, the whole meeting will be affected. So, in this case, reliability I pay more attention. So, I have to allocate out of 100%, how many percent important is reliability. So, here in this example, we determine, okay, 60%. Then fast response is next important, 30%. And minimum or minimal inconvenience, 10%. So, you have to convert this to ratio. Like probability, less than 1. Cannot be more than 1, must be less than 1. Okay, don't leave it in percentage, okay, leave it in ratio form. Okay, then this one, okay, 60 the probability, and this is 30, this is 10. So now, based on this weight, you need to calculate the score. Okay, how do I come up with the score? First, this basic score, how do I come up with this basic score? Exactly the same way as qualitative. Okay, just now I told you, right, 3 out of 5 members say yes. Email is fast. 3 out of 5 members say email is fast. So 3 over 5 times 1, because the full score is 1. So times 1, so 0.6. So you put 0.6 over there. You put 0.6 for fast response email. Then let's say 4 members say yes. Email is reliable. So 4 out of 5 times 1, 0.8. So you put 0.8 over here, just example. If you have 10 members, then how many out of 10 times 1? Understand or not? So after getting all the score, how to get the final score? Final total. Okay, 0.3, the respective weight. Respective weight need to multiply. So 0.3 multiply with 0.5. 0.6 multiply with 0.9. 0.1 multiply with 0.5. Then all the products you need to add. Just now the multiply, add. When you add, you get 0.74. So you are getting the score over 1. Okay, over 1. If you go and add all this directly, you won't get over 1. You will get over 3. Because each of this is over 1, over 1, over 1. So you will get over 3. Wrong. You need to multiply with the weight, then get the score. Same thing goes to this. 0.9 multiply with 0.2, 0.3 multiply with 0.6, the respective weight. 0.1 multiply with 1. Then plus all 3 products, you get 0.55. So now compare which one is better. Obviously, email is better according to quantitative. You understand or not? So here got some problem. This is taken from book. By right, when you conduct the evaluation, you should get the same output. Okay, I don't know how they get 2 different output for qualitative and quantitative. Okay, by right you should get the same. Okay, clear? You know how to do? This one might come out in exam. Identify the factors, identify the options, put in the score, identify the weight, multiply respective weight, total up, get the score. Then compare the score, choose the option. Clear? Okay? Might come out in exam, so please remember. Okay, requirement prioritization. Okay, priority. So what is requirement prioritization? You need to prioritize the requirement. So when come to some problems, the company come back to you, the client asks you to just develop the higher priority requirement first. The rest, sometimes you need to ignore or put on weight some of the requirement. Can you simply put on weight any requirement? No. So you have to consider the higher priority requirements to be developed first, to be implemented first. The lower priority can be kept aside first. In future, maybe can enhance. Okay? So this is how we usually consider, okay, higher priority requirements. Okay? So first are the principles that you can actually use for prioritization. By ordered levels of equal priority in small number, qualitative relative levels, comparable requirements, same granularity, like same purpose. related requirements can be put under the same one. Requirement not mutually dependent on each other. Yeah. When you arrange the requirement according to the priority, right, you need to see the dependency. If one requirement depend on the other requirement, and you say this requirement very high priority, and this one low priority, can or not? Because you're going to develop the high priority, and low priority will be put aside. But the problem now, depending on each other. Possible or not? So the dependency also must be considered when you are prioritizing the requirement. Okay? Agreed by key players, the important people in your project, like project manager or the client side, the client who make decision, they have to agree with your, the priority assignment. Okay? This one must be agreed by all the key players. That's the meaning. Okay, let's go on with the, you see here, this is value, this is the cost. This is the cost. So high priority, the value high, the cost is also high. Okay, the cost is very high, but the value is not as high as the cost. Then it is said to be low priority. You are spending a lot of money for the requirement to be implemented, but the value is not very high, meaning not really important, not really giving you any benefit. So in that case, it will become low priority. If the value is high, the cost is lower, it is very high priority. Okay? If the value is high and the cost is also high, then it can be considered as medium priority. Okay? So basically, value must be higher, cost must be lower. That's how you design the priority. Okay? Okay, any question before I start with chapter 5? Chapter 6 and 7 I got no issue. Very short and I can cover in one lecture each. But I need to cover chapter 5, which is considered quite long. Another model is coming in. So now, any question? No question. So we proceed. So the example of calculation for both questions I will show during my replacement class. Okay? So please let me know whether you want to go for tonight or Tuesday night before you leave. Okay? I'll go for majority who attend the class. Okay? Okay, chapter 5. Okay, where are we now? Chapter 5, where are we now? Anyone? So how many slides? Okay, we have 100 slides. So more or less three classes. Okay? So where are we now? In the cross, right? First one, requirement elicitation. Second, requirement evaluation, elicitation and all that. Third one is requirement. Third one is, this is the third one. Requirement specification and documentation. You already reached the third one now. Requirement specification and documentation. Okay? So now, let's look at requirement specification and documentation. You will understand different techniques to specify requirement and document. Okay, to evaluate alternative techniques are requirement specification. Okay, so let's start the chapter. Okay, so here we have some important topics. So today I try my level best to cover all this. Okay, the 4 different types of specification. Okay, the first type of specification. Okay, the first type of specification. Now, before that, you already studied software engineering. You have taken software engineering. What's the difference between user requirement and system requirement? What's the difference between user requirement, system requirement? Okay, your friend here said one is like user requirement is general, system requirement is precise, acceptable. Other than that, any other answer? User requirement versus system requirement. Anyone? When you go and talk to your client to elicit requirement, how do they give you or provide you the requirement? Do you think they will give you in a proper terms? Do they give you in proper order? Do they tell you the requirement as the way you write in the document? No, right? That is considered as user requirement. When you come back as a system developer or system analyst, you put all the requirement in order, sort them, right, in a proper standard. It will become system requirement. Okay? So in the exam, do you provide user requirement or system requirement when I ask for functional requirement? system requirement. If you write user requirement, by right, no marks. No marks. User requirement, you write like, okay, login, log out. You should write the system shall allow the user to log in using ID and password, or email and password. You understand or not? You must write accordingly. That is considered system requirement. You know what? When I was marking the midterm, I noticed some of you have written user requirement. By right, functional requirement, you should only write system requirement. You already learned this in what software engineering, but you don't remember. You can see, very obvious. Okay, so I'll just go through very quickly. Okay, high level abstract. Okay, user requirement is high level abstract because directly from the user, directly from your client. Okay, so usually they use natural language. They just say whatever way they want. Okay, so you see, easy to understand when you use diagram or tables, what services the system is expected to provide. Okay, and also some constraints. Okay, system requirement, more precise, like your friend say, detailed description. Detail. Then follow a proper way of writing, structured form of natural language. Should put in certain words to show the requirement completeness. Okay. Then you have to make sure it is also separated to functional and non-functional requirement. Okay. You have to clearly identify the functional and non-functional requirement. Okay. So you can see the difference now. Okay, readers, user requirement, the first draft. So usually will be read by client manager, system end user, client engineers, contractors and architects. Okay, but system requirement, system end user. Okay, because it's considered as a complete document when you have the system requirement. So usually will be read by the end user to sign the contract. Client engineers, system architects, software developers. Software developers. Okay. Okay, so now let's start with the techniques. Okay, there are few techniques I'm going to cover. Okay, I know all the techniques you are, like the first three groups, group 1 to 3, you are taking formal method. So you will find this part very easy because you already know what is formal method, one of the technique. Those who are not taking formal method, I will go slowly to explain to you what is formal method. Most probably next semester you will be taking formal method as well. Okay, so now got 4 techniques I will go through. The first technique is unstructured natural language. You know what is natural language, right? The language that we are using in our daily life to communicate, such as English, Mandarin, or Tamil, or whatever, Malay, Bahasa Melayu, and so on. Okay, so now unconstrained prose writing in natural language. Okay, how do you describe natural language when you are using in writing requirement? Okay, it is unlimited expressiveness. You have no limit. You can use any word that you want to use to come up with the requirement. So that when user tell you the requirement, they can just use any word. Expressiveness is like no limited. It's not limited. Okay. Then communicability. Yeah, it is easier to communicate. When I use natural language, I'm not restricted. I can just say whatever I want to say in the way I like. So communication will be easier. Okay. And the third one, no training needed. Do I need to train someone how to give requirement using natural language? Do you conduct training for natural language? Everyone, they have their own language to communicate. Everyone can just say what they want in their own way. So these are the advantages of natural language, which is unstructured. Okay, this one can come out in exam as well. They can usually pick one of the technique, 1 or 2 technique, ask you to compare. Second way is they can ask advantages and disadvantages of the techniques. Whatever can come out in exam. So this topic is quite important. Okay. Okay, so these are the advantages. Can you see the smiley? Advantages of natural language. Okay, now negative part of natural language. Okay, you see, prone to many of this spec, error and flaw. Okay, why? You know why can cause error? When you write requirement in natural language, it can cause a lot of errors. Why? Flaws means kind of fault errors. Okay, so why can cause many errors? Who can give me all the words that describe type of errors? Anyone? Quick. Okay. It can cause confusion. The first word. It can cause confusion. When I read, I don't really understand what you are trying to say. maybe I have 2 or 3 interpretation. Like this, or does it mean like this, or does it mean like that? See, I cannot really come to a conclusion what you mean. So that is confusion. Okay, the first problem. Okay, the next you can read the example by yourself. Okay, the second one, amalgamation. Yeah, I noticed this in midterm test, this problem. You know what is amalgamation? Who knows what is amalgamation? Another main problem in natural language. 2 or 3 requirements written in one statement. You shouldn't combine requirements. You shouldn't combine. Sometimes you see the requirement is so short. So you simply put 2 or 3 in one statement. I remember a student wrote, allow who to add, update, delete or view something, accessories. Allow the staff to add, remove, update or view the accessories. This is what I noticed in one of the midterm paper when I was marking. So this is amalgamation. Even though add is small short word, you shouldn't write all this in one statement. Wrong. In exam, no marks given. You understand or not? You should, what I did for this round, I cancel the delete, update and view, cancel. So I just assume to add accessories, okay, to the system. So I just assume you have written one. But in exam, don't expect us to do that. Wrong means wrong. Because you haven't studied chapter 5, so now I just accept. Okay, so amalgamation means you shouldn't combine all 4 or 5 in one statement. How do you write? The system shall allow the staff to add accessories to the system. The system shall allow the staff to delete accessories. Separate. One in one statement. So that is called amalgamation. You combine a few in one statement. Wrong. Okay? Not allowed. Okay, next. Hey, one more word is missing. Who can tell me what's the other word? Got. Sorry, I didn't see. This one. What's the meaning of this? 3 words are confusion, amalgamation, and ambiguous. Okay, what is ambiguous? When I read one requirement, I interpret it as A. When I pass to him, he read the same requirement and he interpreted as B. So 2 different meaning for one same requirement. One requirement but 2 understanding. That is called ambiguous. No clarity. No clarity. Mathematics, you got this word right, ambiguous. What is ambiguous? You calculate, you get 2 answers for the same length of side. So, cannot be right. One side, only one length, but 2 possible values. So, we put it under ambiguous. You understand or not? So, same here. We apply the same thing here. 2 meaning, 2 interpretation or 2 different understanding on one statement, then ambiguous. You need to rewrite until everyone, whoever read, understand the same thing. That's the proper way of writing. You shouldn't allow people to interpret in different ways. Meaning your statement got problem. Okay? Clear? So 3 problems are, remember 3. Ambiguous, confusion, cause confusion, and third, amalgamation. Okay? Okay, now the rules to write, we go through very quickly. Actually, you can read yourself. Identify who will read this document or this requirement. Say what you are going to do before doing it. Make sure every concept is defined before use. Keep asking yourself, is this comprehensible? Okay? Then never more than 1 requirement. Yeah, don't write more than 1 requirement in one statement. Okay? Use shall for mandatory, should for desirable, and may or can for optional. This is very important. Should, you must have these 3 words, either one. Should, shall, or may or can. Either word lah. If you have other options, of course you can use. But usually we use should, shall, may. Shall means compulsory, mandatory. If should means desirable, and may or can means optional. You can do or you don't do. This optionality is very important when they are designing the system. It's not a compulsory process, means they have to implement in the system. So your requirement must consider this in the writing. Okay? Remember? Okay, anything else? Yeah, use suggestive example to clarify abstract statement. Supply diagrams, that's why we are learning all the diagrams. Okay? Okay. Always remember, your natural language, your structured natural language can be at attached with a table, can be accompanied with table like this, decision table, decision tree, or flow chart, can be more understandable. So you can always provide this. You are free to provide all this in your requirement statement to give better understanding for the design team or developer. Okay? So always remember, tables are allowed when you want to write your requirement in structured natural language. So far we have learned two: natural language, unstructured natural language, structured natural language. Okay? So structured is the one we are using commonly. We write all the functional requirement in our own, whatever language we want, write English usually. So we use a structure, okay, to write the requirement. So that's why structured natural language. You can always attach, okay, tables or diagrams. Okay. 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 How to use standardized statement template? Okay. You must have identifier. You should have the category. You must have the specification, fit criterion. Okay. So either measurable or not measurable. Source, rational, the reason, the understanding, traceability, and so on. Interaction, priority. Okay. Priority can be also attached. Stability and commonality. Okay. So all this can be given, okay, for a proper standard requirement statement. Okay. Okay. So example, the scheduled meeting dates shall be convenient to participant. Okay. What is convenient for you here? The scheduled meeting dates. The meeting dates should be convenient. So what do you understand when I use the word convenient? What's your opinion? Suitable. Okay. What you understand? That group, anyone? When I use the word convenient, the meeting date must be convenient. What is your understanding? What they are trying to say? The meeting date is convenient for you means what you understand? Any idea? So, you know, the problem here is what? Everyone can fill in the blanks for the convenient. Everyone can just have their own definition for convenient. For you, you maybe say convenient means the date and time, like he said suitable. For her, maybe convenient means out of my working hours. Maybe for him, my free time. Or convenient maybe night, or weekday, or weekend. See, everyone got different definition. You shouldn't have this kind of words in your requirement. Remember, in your assignment, you shouldn't have this kind of words. Another good example, look at the next one. Info display inside the train shall be informative and understandable. Should be informative and understandable. Very subjective. What do you mean by informative? How much of information? This much is informative? This much? This much? How do you define this? And then I always see students write, the system should have a low downtime. Low downtime. What is low for you? How long down is low for you? Low downtime. So how long can be low? How long is considered as low? Less than 1 hour is considered low. What about you? A system down for how long considered low? You try to go and register course today. Intranet down. Then after a few minutes you go and again. So how long you can tolerate? How long is considered as low? Just give me your opinion. No worries. Anything also okay. I just want to show an example. So any? How long low you can consider? You can still tolerate. How many minutes? 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes. 1 hour. Some people say 5 minutes also cannot. Hey, intranet during my registration of courses, down for 5 minutes. So see, different people, different definition. You shouldn't have the word low, high, as much as. Then some say, the performance of the system must be high. What do you mean by high performance? What is the definition? What is the high performance? 1,000 transactions within a second? 2,000 transactions within a second? 5,000 transactions within a millisecond? You have to define. Okay, so the example of writing the requirement in a proper way, you see, scheduled date should fit the diary constraints of at least 90% of invited participants in at least 80 of the classes. Sorry, 80% of the cases. Oh, this is working. So cases. So meaning, at least in I always go for this. My students, I have 155. So at least 90% say yes, I agree with the attendance. I agree with the date and time. Then I go for that time. So that is what they meant. So this is measurable or not? Can you measure this? Can you measure this now? Yeah, I have the number of staff. I know how many say yes, how many say no. I can calculate how many agree, how many percentage agree. So I can say, oh, my system managed to fulfill this requirement. I can measure, I can test. If I just say informative, convenient, understandable, can I measure? Can I measure? Can I measure? Can I prove to my client I have achieved the requirement? Can or not? Cannot. No way to measure, no way to test. So you shouldn't have such words in your requirement. Okay? A survey. See this one? The second one? This is not where are we? A survey after 3 months of the use should reveal that at least 75% of the travelers found in train info display helpful for finding their connections. So after 3 months of the information displayed on the system, you conduct a survey with travelers, at least 1,000 people or 2,000 people, you have a target. After you conduct, at least 75% must answer in the survey, yes, they can understand, they're able to understand. Then you can say my system is understandable, usability is high. Then agree. You understand or not? The usability is not high, but usability is achieved. You can test, you can measure. You understand or not? Otherwise, no way for you to measure the requirement, no way for you to test the requirement. You know what? Always functional requirement, you can conduct testing, black box, white box or whatever testing to prove. But how are you going to conduct testing for quality requirement? How are you going to conduct testing for quality requirement? Anyway, that's why your requirement must be measurable. You understand or not? My master research was on this. I was doing my master project research on this non-functional measurements. Okay, so now proceed. Okay, so you have templates. Okay, so you know, right? You guys have seen this template. I think for every practical class, your tutor, I'm very sure, have gone through this template. You need to prepare your SRS using the template. So you have introduction, general description, specific requirement is section 3. Okay, the first section you have all the introduction subtopics, general description of products, the product that you're going to develop, your system, the system that you're going to develop. And the third one is all about requirements. Specific requirement is all about the requirement like functional requirement, external requirement, okay, architect and other requirement, quality requirements and other requirements. Okay, then you have your appendix and index. Okay, so this is the template. Usually a software development company, they will have their template for SRS. So this assignment, for this course, the assignment is to prepare SRS. You need to prepare the SRS and submit. Okay, we have provided you a template, we have provided you a guideline how to do it. So follow the template for documenting and guideline to do it. Okay, so follow the guideline. Okay. Okay, so now use of diagrammatic notation. So you see class, I have covered free documentation, I have covered the structured natural language. Now we're going to go for diagrammatic notation. For your information, diagrammatic notation is the notation that we are using all the while for this course. Okay, we are using all the UML diagrams. We also have learned some structured diagrams such as DFD, context diagram and so on. UML diagrams, what we have covered? Use case, use case, state chart, class diagram, these are the diagrams, okay? So here I will cover one more diagram, sequence diagram. Okay, let's start. Then the next approach is formal specification. Can anyone tell me what's the meaning of formal specification? There are 4 ways you can write requirement. Free writing, structured natural language, or use diagrams like use case, class diagram or whatever. Fourth one, formal method. What is formal method or formal specification? How do you write, what you used to write requirement in formal specification? The 3 groups who have learned, they already aware of it. But you will be shocked when I say use what? You use mathematics. You use mathematics or mathematical notation to write requirement. So you don't see any word, but you only see the mathematical notation like sets, functions, relation. Okay, these are the things you use to write requirement. Your requirement look all mathematical symbols. That's the next method, next technique to specify requirement. Okay, so there are 4 techniques: free writing or structured natural language, structured natural language, graphical method, and last one is mathematical notation. 4 techniques. Okay. Okay. So we're going to look at the diagrams so quickly, like the division. This one because I already taught you. So here we're just going to revise quickly. So context diagram, you need to have the system. You should have all the entities, external entities identified. Then you need to show the data flow in and data flow out for every entity. What data flow in or flow out from each entity to the system, from the system to the entity. So this is context diagram. Okay, the method is structured method, not object oriented, structured method. Okay, next is ERD. Okay, quickly go to ERD. ERD, identify all the entities of a system. What I mean by entity? The data structure. The data structure, when you want to design the database, you need to identify all the entities, and then after identifying the entities, you need to determine the attributes that you're going to store in the database. What are the attributes for each entity? Like for example, I create an entity student for UMD system, intranet. What are the information of yours I'm going to store? What are the data of yours I'm going to store in my system, student? So when you fill out the form, right, what are the information I ask about you? Your name, first name, last name, your contact number, your email. So all those things are known as attributes. So I come up with the entity with the attributes, of course the name of the entity, identify all the entities, then come up with the relationship between the entities. So what kind of relationship? One to one, one to many, many to many. So this relationship helps me to link the tables, link the entities later when I design the database. So now, entities, when you have many to many, cannot be resolved. You cannot develop many to many, or you cannot link many to many in the real database. So you need to break down the many to many. You need to resolve the many to many. Become one to many, with associative entity added. So between the many to many entities, you need to create one more entity just to resolve many to many. So the many to many will become one to many, one to many. Okay? So these are the things you learned last time for relationship for data, for ERD. And one more thing, you need to have the multiplicity. This is multiplicity. Either one participant, okay, invited, okay, one participant invited for meeting, no meeting, one meeting, or many meeting. So you need to identify the multiplicity for every relationship. Finally, okay, how to know whether put 1 or 0 in front? That is cardinality. If you must attend at least one meeting, you must, as a participant, you must attend at least one meeting. It's mandatory. If it's mandatory, then you need to put 1 here. You need to put 1. If you don't have to attend meeting, if you don't receive any invitation, it is optional, then you can put 0. That's the meaning of cardinality. 1 for mandatory, 0 for cardinality. Optional. Optional cardinality. So remember this. All this must be clearly shown. Then you can also show generalization in ERD. Generalization, meaning inheritance. This to inherit from participants. Okay, so these are the things for ERD. Okay, of course I go fast because we already covered this in last chapter. Okay, so I covered it. Now data flow diagram. Okay, data flow diagram. Just now the context diagram, you have only one system, right? Now break down the system to become all the important processes. Then the same data flow in and flow out must be shown among the process and entities. And you have to also show the data storage. Data repository or database. You have to show here. So all the system component. This one all system component. Just now you show as one system. Now you break down the system become important component, important processes. Then all the entity, external entities remain the same. Bring down. Then draw the data flow in and flow out accordingly. The other thing you need to add is data storage or data repository. Okay? Next, use case. So revise, you have to have the boundary line. You need to identify the title of the module or the system. Then you need to put in all the actors that can interact with the system directly. So after putting in all the actors, you need to identify all the features or functions that they can perform. So after putting in all the functions, you need to draw a line to say who perform which one. Then you can also show some sub-functions or optional functions, okay, that can be extended from the main function. If it's optional function extended, you can put using the word extend. If it is compulsory sub-function, then you can use include. Okay, so these are the use case diagram. Okay, next. Now starts the new diagram. Okay, yeah. Next diagram is the new one for this course. Okay, sequence diagram. Okay, who can tell me sequence diagram come under which? Okay, I'll give you 5 minutes break before I start. Okay, 5 minutes break.